I would like to share a personal experience from my pilgrimage to Kurama-dera in Kyoto, Japan. This was in my first couple of days of being on Mount Kurama. I had traveled up the mountain already on this day, and it was becoming evening. I was descending down the mountain towards the area of the cable car. There's a windy path that is lined with trees and beautiful orange lanterns. As I neared towards the cable car, I noticed a tree that had fallen. I paused here, and I asked the tree that fell, "What lesson are you willing to teach me?" She guided me to look at the lantern next to her. I noticed it was the only one that seemed to be currently lit. She said, "We must protect others, guide others, shelter others when they are weak. So often people find it easier to be there for others when all is well and they don't need anything, but this is selfish. Do you want others to be there for you if you need help? Then how have you treated others? Did you talk about them, think but not act, turn the other way to pretend you didn't know? Where is the kindness in that? Where is the integrity? Life finds a path. People have a destiny. It's not your job to save everyone, just as it is not your job to catch this tree as it was falling. It would crush you. A wise person knows when to act and when to be a light for another to help them find their way. In the same way as a teacher, it is not my job to save my students, make their choices for them, etc. It is my job to shine my light so they can find their way more easily, so they can choose illumination if they decide to. It's their choice. Living a life of integrity, one of the Reiki precepts, means being that light and shining it for the person in the convenience store, the homeless person you drive past, for the people who drive you crazy because their choices, their priorities, the way they see the world is different from you. Yes, for all of them. Let your light shine, and through that, shine love. You will find so much more love in your life when you shine that love for everyone. When I looked closer at the light over this tree that had fallen, I realized it was actually the sun shining through, illuminating it. Later, I would find that pictures I would take of this place, this moment, produced spectacular visions of the sun illuminating circular patterns, fractals. Truly, we need nothing except to open to the certainty of the light, the tree continued to say. For that love will guide and illuminate everything in our lives if we allow it. Allow the light to guide you. Just as this tree was my fallen teacher today, when I finished and stood up, a cool wind blew. I am so grateful for the greetings of the wind. Many trees have fallen here from the storms, but again, this is not a reason to feel sad. These trees fell and create space for growth, for more life. The kami of the trees have been ready to experience their next phase of life. They will carry the wisdom of Kurama-dera in their heart. Learn to see with your heart, not your head. Then learn to see with both. One part here in this world, one part in the next. One part sees the human, one part sees the soul. Spirit is life in all. When I walked about 3 lamps away, approximately 10 steps, I looked back and saw the lamp now looked like all of the others. The light of the sun, the lamp, and the tree. Each of these created a trinity of teachers for me.
Hi, we're back, and we're talking about, what are we talking about?
Japan again.
Of course, we're talking about Japan. Japan's the best.
There were so many lessons that came through in this trip.
Now you'd said that, and then we got talking about we got talking about the mountains and the amazing, the places and the people, and then more places, and then classes, and then we did some meditations on them, which were really cool. And the pictures were amazing. But we still haven't gotten into any of the lessons.
The meditations,
the
right?
point. Well, the meditations, yes.
The deeper lessons.
Your meditations while you were there.
That's what I meant.
Not their meditations
That's
about
what I
it.
meant.
Right, yes. So, yeah. So, okay. So we're going to do some of that today?
That sounds like a great idea. I had a conversation with the tree. Should we talk about the tree I talked to?
I thought you talked to a bunch of trees. You're on a mountain of trees.
You're right.
Did you not talk to more than one tree?
Well, I might.
Did you single out one tree?
And then I made friends with the others.
Ah, see, that's how you do it, right? You always find the one that stands out, and you make friends with them, and then everybody else sort of falls in love. Oh, wait, no, that's high school. Never mind. Sorry. I was having flashbacks.
So when I was kind of reading through my journal, I've been working on writing my book now. I've got about 3 chapters done on my book.
Ooh.
It's going to have a lot of things about Japan.
Oh, the book on Japan.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, with the 21 days of meditation.
I would have thought you'd wrote
33-day journey.
books on like so many things by now.
Yeah, that's what everyone tells me. I've written a lot of workbooks, but not
She has like 20 thick workbooks that she's written, and they're all written amazingly. They're easy to read, and it all flows nice.
Easier to write than writing about myself. So on this day, this was pretty early in the journey, where I had been walking. I made it up to the main temple complex that day, and I was walking back down the mountain. I'd had some incredible journeys already that day, but as I was working on the things with my book, this was one that I kind of randomly flipped to in my journal, and it just felt like, I think I'd like to share this with everyone today. So as I was coming back down, it's a beautiful path. When you're coming, there are 2 ways to get down the mountain. You can walk down the many twisting turns and then all the different stairs, and then there's a curved path that goes off to the left-hand side that will take you to the upper cable car. So since I'd already walked all the way up that day and I was trying to build in how much I was walking, I decided to go down the cable carway. So as I'm walking down that side, you get to an area where there's these beautiful red lanterns that are going all the way down the right side, and the wall of rocks that kind of goes up on your left side, and dirt, the earth that's there, passing different shrines along the way. And there was an area where I had been, I guess, inspired by a tree that had fallen. I'd been inspired by her before, and drawn to her. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so as I was coming down this day, I decided to stop and talk to her again. Okay. And I asked this tree, what lesson would you like to teach me today? Because I think we can learn from so many things in life. We can learn, sometimes I learn from the insects on the mountain. I talk to some of the bugs, and sometimes it can be the sky. We have so many things that we can learn from in this life. And so this time I went over and I kind of sat down with this tree. Actually, first was standing and knelt with the tree, and then she talked so much that I ended up just sitting down there and having a conversation as people would walk behind me periodically.
Nice.
And so it surprised me, because some of the lessons you might expect would be something about impermanence. Trees fall, things change, and that was, some part of the conversation that we had. It was a little bit more expected, but then it actually became quite a bit deeper, more poignant lesson with this tree.
Nice.
And she was talking to me about how we are sometimes, how human nature, sometimes we're there for people, whether it's people we care about or strangers. It's easier to be there for them, to be nice for them when everything is going well, when they don't really need anything.
Because they're not as much work. Because if they need something, then you actually have to do something.
You have to do some work.
Yeah.
You have to give of your energy
Yeah.
or your time or your resources.
Or your day or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've seen this so many times with people where a spouse will get sick and then the other spouse will just decide it's too much work and leave. And they may feel like they don't want to go through the emotional roller coaster, or they don't want to deal with the work, or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's I love you as long as it's comfortable for me.
Yes, yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Yes.
And that's what?
And some couples will, when they reach that point in their marriage where things get hard, maybe they go outside of the marriage for certain needs, and instead of doing the hard work, which is communicating, listening to each other's needs and putting in the effort.
Putting in the effort, yeah.
And the tree was talking to me about how it can be much easier then, but that's actually selfish. If you're being there for people while things are good, if you're being there for people when it's easy to give, when it's easy to share, you're being selfish in that you're making yourself feel good by saying, oh, I'm so good for all the people around me.
I'll be there for anybody, as long as they don't actually need me, but I'm still there for everybody.
Or if it's inconvenient and the person says, well, I would. That's the type of person I am.
But I have a thing on my calendar. I really have to wash the dog. I'm sorry.
Right, which kind of took it to really another level of, I think people will often think of, well, somebody that does a lot of good in the world and is there for people, or somebody that just doesn't and they're more along for the ride. But that middle is where I think a lot of people are when it gets too hard, or someone needs them, but they just kind of pull back, or they act like they don't know. They didn't see it. They don't know. If they don't know, they don't have to help. Or there can be a myriad of reasons with that, with why people wouldn't. But if you want someone to be there for you, then you need to think about, who are you to other people? How do you treat others?
Yeah, because if you're not there for them, why would they want to be there when you're in need? I mean,
exactly.
The kind of friend you are to other people kind of, hopefully, will show what kind of friends you have when you need them.
Exactly. And if you feel like that is not the case, you might want to do a little bit of a deep, honest assessment within yourself. How do you treat the people in your life? How do you treat the strangers? Do you have a scorecard where you feel like every time somebody does something, you're like, okay, I did something, so I'm waiting to collect from you when I'm ready? That's not really sharing.
I have credit, so I need this now because I have credit with you.
Yeah, that's not actually really
that's
giving.
That's the wrong reason.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's only giving because you want to receive.
And then sometimes you have people that will give everything that they possibly can, and they end up suffering themselves in their own life because they're willing to give all of it and not receive, and not allow others to give to them, and not refill of themselves. And that is a really dangerous road as well. When I was talking to the tree about how do you treat others and how we share our light, the tree was talking to me about how we need to share our light. And she said, because if you, in the same way that you need to be there for others, to be that person that cares, that fulfills those needs, it's not your job to save everyone. I think we can easily, we have all the extremes, and then there's the middle. Sometimes people feel like if they see a need, they hear a need, they want to do everything they can, even in sacrificing of themselves. There may be certain cases where you do, but that should not be the normal go-to.
And I say this because I'm kind of in that boat sometimes, but when you do so much for someone, like if they're in need, and then when you do everything you can for them, they need to get to a place and they need some money for the thing, and they need somebody to take them back and to sit there while they're in there, whatever, or they need, all of the things that people can need. If you do all of those things, you feel invested. And so, and in that feeling of investment in them, you want them to then make the choices that are good for them. Which is like, but you're trying, that's what I'm saying.
For the outcome that you want to see.
You're trying to save them.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing to separate, of both giving to help and then allowing them to still make all of the decisions that may have put them in the position of needing all this help in the first place.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I loved one of the things that the tree said was that in the same way that if I was there when that tree was falling, if anyone was there while the tree was falling, you shouldn't try to run under and catch it. It will crush you.
You think?
Exactly.
Oh, and so if you try to catch the world's problems...
When you're trying to save them, from the mentality of saving them.
It will crush you.
Everyone has their own fate and their own destiny, the tree said.
Yeah. So if they're going to fall, they're going to fall.
Exactly.
And the only way, and to try and stop them from falling is the same as trying to catch a tree.
Right, exactly.
You can accomplish the same thing.
Exactly, and feel
Which is
crushed.
nothing.
And oftentimes, probably people have noticed that, where you've found somebody that you really wanted to invest everything into to help them round that corner, to come up to where they need to be in your mind.
Especially when they come and they tell you all of the things that are going on and how much they need help.
Sure.
And you want to be there, They're like, I have all of these things I need to accomplish, I need to have happen, I need to make my life better. And you go, I can do those, I can help you with that. And then nothing changes.
And it's a big balance of figuring out how to shine the light, when to give the resources, because we are here to share and to give, and how to not be so attached to the outcome that we feel like it needs to be a certain way so that we can see the person find happiness. Because they make their own choices.
So you share what you can, when you can.
And you share the light. The tree was very specific about you share the light.
Okay.
It is our job as humans, as people that are choosing to be enlightened, as somebody that is awakening to the consciousness of this life and the consciousness of your own choices and your own intention. It becomes our destiny, our need to share the light in all of those situations. And the light will guide you. And the light will let you know they have their own outcome. They have their own tikkun, as we've talked about tikkun. It is up to them to recognize what their big lessons are in life. Sometimes
why they're there.
So easy to see from the outside that this is someone's lesson, and why can't they just learn it?
Duh, it's only beating you on the head, but
maybe you haven't learned your own tikkun lesson either, and someone else can see it easily.
The one beating me on the head is so not the tikkun I need to do.
It's not trying to save everyone.
No, not at all. Oh yeah, right?
And but it is our job, our mission, to share the light, to be the light, to not just give something with the assumption of hoping to receive something back, to not give with the trying to change the person, like trying to catch the tree so that it doesn't fall, but to give because you feel motivated by the light to share because you're doing it out of love. And when you're doing it out of love and you're doing it from a place of simply being the light, then this will come through in a way that you want to do it, not just for those that are closest to you, but for those that you meet, for someone at a convenience store that's working there, people that you see at the grocery store, or also family and best friends. And the tree was talking about how it's our job to simply be the light and to have certainty in the light as well. When we walk around in life and we have such certainty within ourselves of the universe, the light of the universe, the light that connects all of us, the light of love, when we have such certainty in ourselves with that, that automatically shines out to everyone else. And they start to feel it, and it starts to become where we simply, by being present with the mindset of wanting to share the light, that we automatically are shining the light so they can find their own way. And then it rises into where it shifts from sympathy or empathy to the compassion level, where it's sharing for the sake of sharing in giving that light of love so they can find their own path and their own way.
So the issues are the darkness, and we're the light that helps them find their way.
Exactly. Okay. So be the light.
Be the light.
We all, in this world, we have this full range of where we can be, on an end of selfish, conserved, withholding, or in fear, or we can be on the side that is, full of love, compassion, unlimited, recognizing there is no limitation to the amount of light and resources that are abundant. Certainty, exactly. And we often are kind of like on this teeter-totter. We slide back and forth in different situations. The more we start to recognize we can stay in this place of certainty, we become that light that others automatically start finding themselves just being in that presence. They start seeing the resources that they have, the resources that they can explore, and it empowers them to make the choices if they choose to. And again, that's their option. It can be really hard when we have someone we care so much about and we see them making the same choices over and over and over that are maybe victim mentality or fear mentality or defeatist, things like that. But it's not our job to save and to change that. It's our job to inject love into that situation.
So when you were talking to this tree and all of this stuff came through, how did the tree relate? How did it relate the idea of the light to you?
So this was kind of interesting as well. So as I was walking down the path, and I mentioned those red lanterns that were lit along the side, it was in the later afternoon, so the lanterns were not turned on yet. They turn on usually at dusk, and a little past dusk. And as I was sitting here talking to the tree told me to look up at the lantern next to her, and I noticed the lantern was lit, and it was only that lantern that was lit. And so that's when I actually started talking to her about the light.
You were like, wait a minute.
She said, look at this lantern.
Look at the light. Yeah, look at the light.
Exactly, and it was shining a light on the lesson and on us as we were sitting there, the three of us, the light, the lantern, and the tree. And I realized after talking to her, after that conversation I just shared with the light and having certainty in the light, that it was actually the sun that was coming directly into this one lantern as a focal point, and it was so bright that the center of it glowed like a light bulb, and it diffused to the outer edges of the lantern.
It was a single stream of light
going
that
right
lit just that one lantern where you were standing.
None of the other lanterns on the other side.
That's telling.
Yes.
That's telling. Hey, come here. I would like to have a conversation with you.
Exactly.
I mean, wow. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And it turned on after I'd begun this conversation with her, because it wasn't on when I first started talking to her.
Oh, okay.
It was after we started to talk, and she told me to look up at it, and it was on.
Now it's lit.
It was the first time I'd seen a lantern on, where it looked like one. I hadn't seen the mountain at night yet at that point, so I wasn't sure if they turned on. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, they must turn on individually.
Individually, yeah. They each have their own little sensor that turns on.
Yes.
Nope.
It was amazing.
It's a ray of sunshine.
Exactly. She told me right when to look at it.
Wow.
Yes.
That's kind of amazing.
It really was. And it was such a bright, pun intended, a bright lesson to learn from her. And
that's amazing though, because I mean, when you think of trees, there's so many correlations you can think of. You know what I mean? Heavy and time and passing and cycles of impermanence and cycles of life. And I mean, there's so many things. But the whole supporting people and the idea of if you give too much, allowing that weight to crush you like you would when the tree fell. That's just so, wow.
Yes, and she continued on after I looked up at the light and seen that we had that discussion. She continued on to talk about living a life of integrity and how important it is to live that life of integrity so that we are shining that light, and that the only thing we can truly focus on is being that light ourselves.
Yeah, because we can't do anything about anybody else.
We can't.
Their life is their path, their moment of recognition, and enlightenment has nothing to do with us, and it never will.
Yes, and exactly, and I find it fascinating too that this was on the Reiki mountain, and that's one of the Reiki precepts, of course, living with integrity as well. Yeah, exactly, and so shining that she said a lot of people miss the mark in certain areas where they may want to be that light for their friends, or maybe it's just the significant other, Or maybe they like to be the light for people they don't know, but they're not really
'Cause
nice to the ones that they do know.
Because it's easier with people you don't know, because
Depending on the person's
depending on the person,
personality.
that's what I'm saying, yes, I can see it being easier depending on who you are in those different, yeah.
Exactly. So it's good this week to maybe examine in, who do you embody the light around
Cool.
the most?
Yeah, yeah.
And what situations are you in where maybe you forget your own light? And sometimes we forget our light when we're around people maybe that challenge us,
Yeah.
or maybe when we're around situations where maybe we feel smaller and we forget that we have the light, that we
Right,
are
yeah,
the light.
Yeah, because we're too busy hiding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So really think about, how do you act when you get something at the convenience store with the gas station clerk? Do you treat them with the same respect that you would treat your boss? Do you treat your, all of the different levels, waitresses, waiters, people who provide services are being very caring in the fact, even if it's their job, they're bringing things to you, and you can receive that with the light of love and begin shifting things all around the world with that.
Nice, nice.
The tree also mentions specifically people who drive you crazy. Sometimes they drive you crazy because their choices and their priorities are different than yours.
Right, yes.
And it's important to recognize, as we kind of work through healing the ego, our choices aren't always the right ones. They may be right for us.
Right.
It might be exactly what we need because it's how we choose to live our life, but it doesn't mean that someone else is wrong for the choices they made. I remember at the end of my lesson with the tree, just thanking her for the lessons that she brought and thinking of how it was this like Trinity of Teachers, the light, the lamp, and the tree, and how wonderful it was. And right at that moment, this wind kicked up and it rustled through the leaves of all of the trees, and it was just this melodic sound and melodic feeling, and it felt like it was carrying, lifting away any burdens, which is another thing to know. Like, we can shift things. If you are at a point in your life where you're feeling heavy, you're feeling weighted down, you're feeling frustrated maybe, or overwhelmed, or anything like that, go out in nature, spend some time with the trees. Think of the wind as pulling those things off of you. There are so many different visualizations you can do as you get in touch with the earth. And one of the other things that she then brought me to after that wind had come through was she talked about how many trees have fallen in that area. They had been hit in this area by 2 typhoons relatively close together, and it had taken a lot of work to clear some of that. And some of them were still there, and some of them had been, cleaned up or in piles.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes the piles made seating, and you could see the moss growing over it and kind of reclaiming it in a new way.
That's cool.
And one of the things that she talked about was that many trees have fallen here after the storms, but again, this is not a reason to feel sad. Sometimes people feel sad when a tree falls, of course, because we can grow very attached to them.
Especially the really old growth ones, I mean.
Yes, absolutely.
You feel like it's history going away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she explained, and I love that you brought up the old trees, because this would apply so much to all trees, and the old trees especially. When a tree is in an area, it has witnessed so many things in that area, and it is learning, it is drawing in the wisdom of the geography of that area. It is really bringing in this ability to understand the points of divinity that are there and the lessons that come in. And when those trees are ready to have the kami, or the essence, to be able to spread throughout to other areas, they often need to break first so that that energy is released off. Sometimes when those trees fall, she said some of the trees that fell, the energy was ready to go somewhere else. Then they were going to take the wisdom that they had learned on Mount Kurama and carry that into other parts of the world. So learning to see with your heart and not just your head was one of the final things that she was talking about, was how we oftentimes will, and it can be 2 different types of people. Some people look at the world where they see everything through the head. think, they analyze, they figure out, and there might be a little disconnect with their heart and their decisions of the head. And other people see the world through their heart, and there might be a disconnect as they see everything through the heart and the emotions. Exactly, the watery aspects. And they need to bring in the mind aspects. So she said to me, learn to see with your heart first, not your head. Then learn to see the world with both.
As long as you're seeing with love. You see with love first, and then love and logic.
Exactly, I like that. Love and logic, exactly. And she said, learn to see everybody, all the people, animals, everything that you come across. Learn to see with the heart and then the head and in balance. And through that, you learn to see the human of the person and also see the soul of the person.
Yes.
And I think that it's that merging of both of those together that helps us to be the best that we can for what we can offer. When you learn to see the one part with the human and the other part with the soul, you can really see the aspect of the spirit of life that is in all of us. And it really shows that connection that we all have with each other as well. So,
go ahead.
So I hope that gives you some food for thought for the day as you think about what lessons from this tree that had fallen you can bring into your own life. Sometimes we feel ourselves that we have fallen in life. Sometimes we feel like maybe we didn't reach the goals that we wanted to. Maybe we feel like we should have been at a certain spot in our life by the milestone that we reach. And we need to give ourselves grace and realize there is as much wisdom in the fact of feeling like you've fallen and recognizing that you are the light and you don't just stay in that. Just like the tree that fell, it didn't just dissolve, it didn't stay in suffering as a fallen tree, it released the kami. So use those moments in your life where you feel like you've fallen in some way to release this energy of your spirit to move into what you want to move into. Look at what those new things might be. How if you could invent yourself completely on a soul level, who would you be? And know that the light is always there and giving itself to you because you're made of the light, and you can bring that into springing forward in your life. And I hope that gives you some food for thought for today as you get ready for this next week. Some things to ponder this week.
And if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, please go to our website, earthandskycenter.com. It has all kinds of fun stuff to see and read and all the classes and everything coming out.
We're getting ready to set that fall schedule of classes, so if there's certain classes that you're really wanting, feel free to let us know and we'll get those on the schedule. If we are able to, we'll do that as well.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.